everyone, Kelly here from ATOL. Are you feeling buried under piles of paperwork while working through documented information for your management system? Are you wondering if all of this documentation is really necessary or if it's just slowing you down? Well, you're not alone. Here in episode 6 of Lead the Standard, Jackie and I are discussing the strategic value of documented information and how proper documentation can actually enhance efficiencies and quality in your organisation. So hang around to see what we've got to say. Are you ready? Let's get started. So hello everyone, welcome to episode 6 of Leading the Standard with ATOL. I am Kelly Taylor, and with me here today, as always, is my wonderful co-host Jackie Stapleton, our triple certified auditor and ATOL director. Hi Jackie.
Hello.
So today we are discussing beyond paperwork, unlocking the strategic value of documented information, which is based on edition 52 of our Lead the Standard newsletter. And we did get a question from a student feeling a bit swamped with 9001 documentation requirements. And I'm sure there's a few people out there feeling the same across other standards as well. So I am going to share with you the email that we received and we can dive a bit deeper into their concerns. So I am currently working through the ISO 9001 training module, and I'm feeling a bit overwhelmed by the documented information requirements. To be honest, it feels like the focus on paperwork is over the top. From my perspective, it seems like all these documentation requirements are just slowing us down and complicating processes that should be straightforward. I've always believed that it's better to get a job done rather than spending half the time writing about how we're supposed to do it. Isn't there a risk that we're focusing too much on ticking boxes and creating files rather than actually delivering quality and value to our customers? I'm really struggling to see how maintaining all these records is going to prevent issues with our products or improve customer satisfaction. Could you help me understand why there is so much emphasis on this? Is there really a benefit to all this paperwork, or are we just burying ourselves in documents at the expense of efficiency and adaptability? Please help. Thank you for clarifying this for me. This is such a relatable concern. I know it's something that, documents and paperwork do seem like a lot of an issue. And again, something that I'm sure many of our students and other professionals are facing when they first encounter the documentation requirements of ISO standards. So Jackie, what are your thoughts on this?
Well, as usual, I do have thought, and I know you like me to give short answers first, but I'm going a bit rogue. I'm sorry. No. Because as you were reading that, I thought there was a few key points in that email we received, and I'd like to recap on it. I think the first thing that stood out to me was, it said, I've always believed that it's better to get the job done rather than spending half the time writing about how we're supposed to do it.
Yes.
And when I read that, I thought of you.
Yeah. Thank you.
and what a pain in the neck you are.
Thanks.
When it comes to making sure things are documented here at ATOL.
Yes.
And so when you read that out, I thought, my first thought was, okay, what stood out, are we better off just doing the job rather than spending half the time writing about it? So my first thought was, well, no. I know it takes time to write it initially, but for me, next time that I do it, I don't have to sit here and think, how did I do it last time?
Yeah.
And then fumbling my way through trying to remember how I did it last time and then missing half of it and then having to go back. Isn't that actually taking longer than what it would to actually document it the first time?
As you do it.
That's right. And I'm not just talking about me doing my own tasks like every day, but it's more about being able to pass it on to other people. Like we all need holidays, don't we? And we get sick and have days off. So we need people to keep the ball rolling.
Exactly. You never know what's going to happen.
Yeah, so I thought that was an interesting comment. Rather than spending half the time writing, like, I want to take that whole attitude away from this situation. That's a really bad attitude. Don't you think?
Well, yeah, I agree. There are options and different ways that you don't necessarily have to sit there and say this step, this step, this step. There's tools that are available to you. Again, it's something that, if you do it as you go, you are brain dumping. You are, and look, I might be hijacking what you've got ahead, but different people do things different ways, and it is something that we talk about a lot here. So this has come from a student, but as Jackie said, we can relate to it in-house, and it's a conversation that I often have with the team around getting a document done. If you need it documented for you and you've got your notes, then someone else is going to need them as well, and someone else can benefit from them. And because we here at ATOL absolutely know that life happens, and it happens when it's the least convenient time. So it's best for you to plan for the unexpected. And that's what documented information helps to do.
Exactly. Which sort of leads to the next point our student made, where they said, isn't there a risk that we're focusing too much on ticking boxes and creating files rather than actually delivering quality and value to our customers?
I hate the box ticking for the sake of ticking boxes.
That's right. So there is a point to that. Like, you can over document, you can, and again,
Guilty.
I'm sorry, we've been down this path, and it's probably over documenting due to micromanaging or performance managing more so, because you think that a document or a checklist can help with the performance of a staff member.
Yeah.
And it does end up being a bit over the top, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And sometimes it's not even just that, it's the way things are documented too, over explaining, because that, and that can make things the other way as well. So
actually remember that point when I share what clause 7.5 says in the standards, that over explaining. Is it necessary? So yes, there has to be a balance. And then the next point that was mentioned was, I'm really struggling to see how maintaining all of these records is going to prevent issues with our products or improve customer satisfaction. Believe me, it will actually help you.
Yeah. If you can't see the benefit, then that's a concern in itself.
Yes, because you need that traceability. Like, if something happens, you need to be able to go back to find out, well, what happened, how did we do it, and so on. So, and it helps you to make decisions. And I think I've got that covered in my, I think I've got 5 steps to manage your documentation. So it helps, it's like evidence-based, factual approach to decision-making. It takes away the warm, fuzzy feeling decision-making, particularly in quality, where it tends to be. Like, obviously, these requirements are the same through all of the standards. They're very similar across all of them. But retention of records, so when we ask to retain documented information, that's evidence. And there's actually more of that requirement in the standards than there are of creating procedures. But that evidence is key to improvement.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, sorry, I went a bit off track there, but I thought when you read that out, there were some really good points in there that we could pull out. So, do you want me to get on with it then?
I think we should get on with it. We could talk about this one for a long. I'm actually looking forward to this one.
Oh, wow. You are a nerd. Okay. So, as I said before, I know you like me to have a short answer to this, but today I've actually got 2 short answers.
Look at that.
Yeah, I know. Like, because there's actually a short answer right buried within the standards. So in clause 7.5, which is documented information, there is a statement there, and it talks about, I'll go through it. It states that the extent of documented, so I'll change my tone there. It states that the extent, so how much, so the extent of documented information from a management system can differ from one organisation to another due to 4 different things: the size of the organisation, the type of activities, processes, products and services, the complexity of processes and their interactions, and the competence of people or workers. So remember I said to you, park that thought when you said it was like overdone. So when we do document, we do allow for the competence of people or workers. So when we have people that have met certain performance criteria or qualifications, competence requirements, they come to us with a certain level of expertise. Like, we don't need to explain it or micromanage it because they have the knowledge. I think you do that, say, with marketing. I'll keep it simple. Like, if using Canva, if I was following the procedure, I couldn't follow it because I don't know how to use Canva. Yeah. But there's an expectation that the marketing team, when they're following our procedures, know where that button is or how to do that. We don't have to explain it in micro terms.
No. On a side note to that, though, it's always handy to have a single source of a more detailed, okay, here is where you find that information if you need it, but you don't need it in every single procedure relating to that thing, and vice versa. We don't need that identical procedure written for every single item that platform for. We can link things, make connections.
Yeah. So in 7.5, the extent of documented information that one company has to another can be, obviously, the extent, the amount of it can be completely different. If it's a smaller business, they'll tend to have less documentation. But if it's a national or international company with thousands of employees, absolutely you would expect to have more documentation. Documentation is a control, essentially. Like, it's a lower level control, as we all know, but it's a control to ensure that consistent output of what we're delivering. So there are these different levels. And of course, the type of activities, whatever you deliver, what your products are, and related to that is the complexity of what your processes are, and even the complexity of what you might deliver as part of that process. So, of course, the more complex it is, the higher the risk, the more the tendency might be to have more documentation, like checklists, checks, etc., to manage it and control it and prevent issues from occurring.
And that's the important part. As you said before, if you couldn't make that connection about why am I doing this, it's not going to help. That's why.
That's why, exactly. So that was my long, short answer. The first long, short.
Going to love you.
So, yeah, that's my first, what did I say? My first long, short answer. But I didn't come up with that one. Obviously, I'm just sharing what's in the standards in clause 7.5. But what I did put together to help respond to this question were 5 quick, I suppose, checks, key elements, I guess. So my second short answer is, I'll just go through this 5 and then we'll explain it later. So when we require documentation, as I said, as a form of control, and we need data or records to make decisions for continual improvement, these 5 key elements you might want to consider. So the first one is system documentation. System documentation. I've got to remember to emphasize certain words a bit better, system documentation, data or record or evidence collection, then the analysis and the factual decision making, then the implementation, let's do something about it, and then the feedback loop. Okay, so all of this is a feedback loop.
Sounding very familiar. I feel like we've talked about this before.
Really?
Hearing PDCA in my head as you're reading this.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Plan, do, check, act.
Here we go.
Yeah, there's so many plan, do, check, act continual improvement cycles within a management system, within an ISO standard. You can pick certain clauses up and they will all be a continual feedback loop. That's why I love it so much. That's why you're excited by it.
And you got me in it.
Okay, so what I'll do now, if you want me to move on, is to explain and break down those 5 a bit more, and then you can butt in and give me your 2 cents worth, because I know that you're passionate about this as well. But before I do, I want to share a story about my breakfast in San Francisco, because it's totally relevant to documented information. So did you want to hear it?
Yeah, I want to hear it, but I am hungry, so I'm concerned now.
So I don't know when this was. My youngest son, Isaac, I think it was 12, so it must have been 9 years ago. We went on a family holiday to America, and one of the places we stayed in San Francisco for, a few days. And the hotel we were staying in had like a cafe or whatever down the bottom. So each morning we'd go and have our breakfast before we started our, tripping around the place. And on the first morning, I ordered something called the San Fran pan, because the name intrigued me. Look, I was hungry. Okay, so no judgment on the size of how much food this was. You know how many kilometres you walk when you're on holidays, don't you? Like in a day.
Especially around San Fran, you got to navigate all those hills. The lines for the trolley cars are too long, but also context. An American menu is always going to be 4 times the size of an Australian menu. I do apologise to our American viewers, but that's the reality. That's the first thing.
I forgot that. You're right, because I know, by the end of it, my husband Lee and I had decided we don't actually need to order
John and I were
separate meals. Yeah, we can just share this.
Order an entree between the 2 of us.
Yeah, because they are huge.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that gives some extra context to what you're about to say.
Well, that's true. I feel like a bit of a guts now.
Well, remember, 20K a day, up and down hill, San Francisco.
Well, that's right. And I was younger. I was probably burning. My metabolism was faster. Yeah, that's what I'm going with anyway.
This is relevant, though. I just need to
totally to do with documented information. Yeah, you'll see. So on day 1, I ordered this San Fran pan. And on day 1, like the breakfast came out, first time I'd experienced it. So say it was 2 sausages, some bacon, eggs, mushroom. Yum, I love mushroom. And there was some sourdough and a big slab of butter. Okay, it was beautiful. Loved it. It got me through the whole day. So the next morning we went down, and this is something my husband hates because I tend to order just the same thing off the menu. Yeah, even months later I'll go, oh, that was really nice. I'm too scared to order anything else. So the next morning I ordered the San Fran pan again for brekkie because it was so good the day before, and because in my personality I just got to stick with what I know. But it was quite interesting because when my same menu item came out, my 2 sausages had turned into 1 small sausage. There was still some bacon, but my fried eggs were now scrambled. There was no mushroom this time, and I love mushroom, but I didn't even have my sourdough. It was like this huge white bread bun. So it actually was a different breakfast. I mean, okay, this is intriguing. Anyway, I ate it. Sorry?
That's why you order differently, because then you can't be disappointed.
Yeah, but now I was intrigued.
Okay.
Because I thought, this is where my system brain started coming in and thinking, okay, I've ordered the same thing on 2 different days and it looks different. Mm-hmm. It was different. So, of course, on the 3rd morning, I had to order the same breakfast.
She didn't learn her lesson.
I had to see what the 3rd breakfast would look like. I wanted to know how things worked out the back. Like in my head, I thought, surely they've got, someone's ordered the San Fran pan. This is what's in it. I have no hospitality experience whatsoever, but my quality brain kicked in and went, surely I'm going to test their system. I wasn't the auditor at breakfast. So sure enough, ordered the San Fran pan. Guess what? Different again.
I feel like that was coming.
3 mornings in a row. Like there was still the basic stuff, but the bacon and egg was on a bun. This time. There was a sausage on the side and the mushroom on the side, but instead of the bacon and the egg, which first morning was fried egg, second morning was scrambled, it was like a McMuffin or something like that. Okay. Oh, and they threw in a hash brown this time, so they must have some spare hash browns. Yeah. So, like, my head was spinning, and I suppose I do go on a bit. And Isaac and Lee, my husband, just entertain me and listen to me, banging on about how are things running out the back. Surely they've got this hanging up. I'm trying to solve all of their business problems. And I was wondering how they communicated in the kitchen. Surely there was something that showed them what was in each menu item, like how the staff knew what each meal included, how to present it even, so that it was the same each time for the customer. Or did their customers just having a guess each morning and just, surprise me? I don't know. And I suppose that was my question to myself. How was it impacting their customers and their business? Because you just couldn't rely on what you were actually getting. But
I think significantly, because 9 years later, I feel like this is your therapy episode.
Well, I enjoyed each breakfast, but it was entertaining, to say the least.
For Lee and Isaac, yeah.
Yeah, not for Lee and Isaac, no, that's for sure. But yeah, I to the point I actually said, I just really want to go out back and ask them. But Lee and Isaac said, Jackie, stay away. It's none of it. Just deal with it. And 9 years later, this is how I'm dealing with it. So thank you for listening.
I'm curious if any of our students or any of our listeners know what's in a San Fran pan. Please let us know, because now I want to know what is expecting.
Yeah, I don't even know if it is a San Fran thing or it was that cafe that made it up. But I brought it up, not the breakfast. I brought up the story. I brought up the story because to me, this is where documented information fits in. And I know it's boring. I'm fully disclosing I have no experience in the hospitality industry. At no point have I ever worked in hospitality. But I feel like this is an easy fix, and the easy fix includes some documented information.
Gordon Ramsay would like to know what's going on in that.
Yes. I wonder what he do. I don't know. I thought it was something that we might all be able to relate to, and documented information is the control in this instance. Like, if anyone listening or watching has any experience in hospitality, they can tell me otherwise, and maybe whatever the systems or processes should be and how that's managed. But it's a really relatable story that possibly. We've all been through, but yeah, I love my San Fran pan, no matter how it comes out.
I should have started with that.
So I thought I'd cover that first, and now I will get on with it. Okay, I will go through those 5 key elements: the system documentation, the data or evidence or records collection, and then the analysis and the factual decision making, and then the implementation, and then that whole feedback loop. Right. So this system documentation, I feel like in hindsight, it's not a very explanatory key element.
Mm.
It's actually quite boring. It's not really explaining anything. But what I meant by just saying this first key element, system documentation, first thing I think of is, what are you already doing and what do you already have documented? Don't make new stuff up.
Mm.
And you said it before, Kelly, as you're doing something, document it. I know it takes some time initially, but in the long run, it saves you time.
And as I said, there's tools for that. We use Vimeo to record some of our systems and processes. We've got obviously other tools that we have access to through our instructional design platforms. But yeah, Vimeo, there's Scribe. There's programs that will record what you're doing it as you're doing it, so you don't have to do that and just go back and touch it up later. There's so many ways to do it as you go, besides the manual, I did this step, screenshot. I did this step, screenshot. Screenshots help.
Absolutely. Screenshots are brilliant. Something I've discovered recently is Loom. So Loom. So it's like Vimeo Record. So what I do, if I am short of time and I do need to explain a new procedure, I use Loom. And so not only does it have the video explainer, but then it has the option of I think it's 4 different documented procedures. So it actually does a step-by-step. And I think one's actually called a QA process.
Ooh,
so I pop that, because as you know, we use OneNote for all of our documentation. I pop that, the video and the transcript, whether it be the QA process or the step-by-step. And it's just a really quick way of getting it in there initially if I don't have the time, and then you expand on it.
Yeah. Yeah. All the little questions you've got as you go, dump them in there. Yeah. If you're writing, don't worry. The first time you document something, don't worry about what it looks like or if there are gaps, because I can tell you right now, you're going to find more gaps or you're going to find more efficiencies. So every time you look at it, it's going to be different.
Yeah. That's the key though, and you know this because I know that you're a pain on this as well, is that once you create a procedure, does it just sit there and nobody ever looks at it again and we just make stuff up as we go? What should we be doing?
Yeah, again, use it, test it.
Follow it. Go back to it. I know that we have frustration sometimes. It's like, no, just go back to the procedure, follow it. I'm guilty of it. I know when Melissa first started with us, our business support admin.
Sorry, Melissa, we're using you again.
Yeah. She took over some procedures that I was doing, some admin tasks. I'd been doing it for so long. We had a procedure for it, but because I'd gotten so used to it, each morning I just go click, 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 blah, blah, click, click, bang, bang, bang. I had not been looking at the procedure for months.
And that's such an easy habit to fall into. Again, we've talked about that. It's just quicker to do it than to know.
Yeah. Because stuff had changed during that time, and I just been going, now it's like this. Okay, bang, 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 click, click. Oh, I don't have time for this. And so when Melissa first started with us, she was following procedures that really weren't current.
Oh, and since halved and so much more efficient because Melissa tried to follow them. And she couldn't. So we fixed them and changed them.
Yeah.
So, and that's not any reflection on Melissa. That's totally Jackie and I.
Yeah.
But
that's actually a really good point, Kelly, because if we document the procedure, someone else, and you and I do it. If you write a procedure, well, we used to, but now we've got other people that can do that as well. You'd always get me to follow it and see if I understood it. But as you mentioned with Melissa, when Melissa joined us, she could see so many improvements, more streamlined ways of doing things. So that's another advantage of documenting these key processes and getting your team members to follow it, because they're looking at it with fresh eyes.
And a different perspective. You need, and look, even if someone's not going to be following that process themselves, that's probably an even better person in a lot of instances to have a look at that process for you, because again, you do it every day. If someone needs to jump in case of emergency, life happens.
Yeah,
you need to know that you're writing in language that anybody can follow. And again, sorry, I may be jumping ahead, but this is something that we again discovered we've had in the customer service space. We've had a couple of people in that role over the years with different approaches, and one person had really good procedures for everything. They were great for them, but it was like reading a story. And
yes.
And little comments, and this is why we do it and all that. And it's, look, knowing the why is great, but that can sometimes, for some people, I know for me, when I'm following a process, I like it to be step by step by step and be able to find the why elsewhere.
Yeah.
But it was a great process for that person, and the detail was incredible, but it was too much.
Too much. Yeah,
so
I
you've got to be
agree.
mindful of that as well. And somebody else reading it, and look, that somebody might just go, oh, that's too hard for me to understand, I'm not going to follow it. And that's where it falls down. So it's got to be, I suppose, transferable between different people, different learning styles, different understandings. And that's a topic we're going to talk about in a few weeks as well, different learning styles and understanding.
Yeah, okay. No, absolutely right. And that's another reason why other people should check. So I suppose just to quickly recap on that, the system documentation, look at what you've already got. Is it documented? How you do things? Also, are you capturing the outputs, which sort of leads to the second key element anyway, that data and record collection? And use tools to document, to make it simple for you, okay, not so arduous.
Sorry, I just had, again, another thought there. If you are using a system or a platform that has their own knowledge base or their own experience, if you follow that program's process, again, I'm not going to use the one we've always used. I'm going to use Asana, for example. Asana is our project management platform that we use. They have an awesome knowledge base of all of the things. And when they update processes, now they're one of those programs that updates processes or changes things quite regularly. If you use a system that updates regularly, it's okay to say refer to their knowledge base article, because if that's the process you follow and they change something and you've written it, well, you've used what's available to you already.
Exactly. And that goes back to your old saying, Kelly, one
source of the truth.
Yes.
Yeah.
Do not duplicate what you're writing. I see that so often when I'm working with people to build their systems, or when I audit them, they're making these statements in multiple areas. So guess what? When something changes, it changes in one spot, but then they don't know where all the other spots are. And that's what I go on and on. Put it in one spot. You're just making more work for yourself.
Refer it. Hyperlinks.
Yeah.
Notes. Yeah. Don't rewrite the whole thing.
Exactly.
It's just frustrating. Anyway, that's my vent for the day.
Okay. All right. It's a good segue then to the next key element that I mentioned. And I just said, again, in hindsight, the name's not very good. It just says data collection. Because remember, this is from episode, is it 52 or newsletter 52? Yeah. Yep. So we're just breaking that down. So I said data collection. The path I was going up with this goes to that fact, I like saying factual approach to decision making. And it is a quality principle. I don't think they say factual approach anymore. I think they say evidence-based decision making, something like that. But I like that factual approach to decision making. So when we talk about documented information, we're not just talking about creating procedures on how to do things. We're also, documented information is also about collecting the evidence to demonstrate that you've actually done something. Okay, that's also documented information. And that's our records, that's our evidence. Okay, sometimes you don't need a procedure to document how you're doing something, but it might be beneficial to retain some sort of evidence that you've actually done it. All right, so yes, Kelly.
And I just want to go back to the comment that was made in that email. I'm buried under paperwork. Evidence doesn't necessarily need to be paperwork. We've just talked about Vimeo recording procedures, using Loom, using Scribe, all those sorts of things. It can be visual, like audio, visual. Yeah, there's it doesn't need to be papers.
That's right. It could be platforms. You talked about how we use Asana. We use HubSpot. Our learning management system for our students is Litmus. Like, there's all evidence within all of those areas. You know, when we're audited, they're the platforms that we go to, and we're updating, creating, maintaining, retaining the evidence as we go through our day-to-day. So you're making this a part of what you do. And if we're talking quality, 9001, this is also part of retaining evidence for your customers. There's a few audits that I do that's all about, I suppose, just to keep it general, they're delivering widgets, certain things to their clients, or they might be doing like a rebuild on an engine or a motor. When it comes in, it's all dirty, it's not working, they'll strip it, they'll take the photos when it arrived, and then they take the photos of when it's been stripped and where the issue is, and then they'll do the work on it, and then guess what? There's photos at the end. So they've got this traceability of the work that's been conducted. And that's, sorry?
It's a good word, traceability.
That's right. And it's for the customer. So if something goes wrong, well, there's evidence of what they've done. Okay. And it's for them to be able to further help the customer if something does go wrong. And that goes back to that traceability. Like, I know I always say it here, like, it's a cover your backside exercise, really. You know, if you can't prove you've done it, well, you might as well not have done it at all.
Yeah. And again, like, that comes down to taking notes. So again, I know Christine does it here, but again, my previous role as a property manager, we're managing people's houses. If we had a phone call, take notes, because okay, this maintenance has come in, take the note. Again, there's that record system. So it's your evidence, you've got all those sorts of the traceability. But again, it's communication, because as you said, if I can't see that it's done, just, this is what I said before, I hate ticking boxes. Like, yes, it's a checklist, but make a note of something in there that I just said it's not about paperwork, it's not about writing, but communicating, take notes.
That's right.
Yeah, communication.
That's right. Yeah, because otherwise it is just ticking a box. And then what does that mean?
Where do I find it? How do I find it? What did you do?
Yeah, now what?
Done.
Yeah.
Exactly. Now what?
Yeah.
What's the next step?
No, that's a good addition, I think, is communication. Okay. So you're happy with that one?
I think I'm happy with that one. Yeah. I could, again, topics popping out of my ears today.
Oh, well, that's good. You'll know what you're writing next. So leading in or leading off, system documentation, and then what did I say? Data collection or something like that. And we sort of touched on this already. Now that we have this, we can analyze it. We can make decisions based on fact.
Yes. Evidence-based decisions.
Yes, yes. And something I always remember with this is I spent some time on customer service in other roles in my previous lives, and said previous lives. I'm that old. I've got previous lives, multiple. So if you do have this and you've been on customer service, and there's more so, if something's gone wrong. So I used to work in like software development, so point of sale, back office systems. They only ring when something's going wrong. Okay, it's not, oh, hey, this is really working brilliantly today. Just thought I'd give you a call and let you know. It's not that. No, it's always, oh, this isn't working. But some days you think, oh, wow. Oh, I've had a lot of cranky customers today, or I've had a lot of customers complaining about
the same thing.
That's right, this module. And then, so if someone says that to me, my first question is, what's a lot?
And why?
Because is it just how you're feeling? Have you just got some really cranky people and it's been always that particular module, and so you're just remembering that, this is all of my problems today, it's a lot. But what's a lot? Like, have you got some data to show me what were the categories of phone calls today? Is there a trend in a certain area? Like, we're not going to make decisions based on how you're feeling. Okay, it could be you might be feeling that way because you went to bed late last night, or you had 5 Sauv Blancs with dinner or something like that.
Or you haven't had breakfast and your boss has just told you about a San Fran pan and all you can think of is
That's, but we don't know what's going on. We can't make decisions based on feelings.
Yeah.
Okay.
Not in this sense, absolutely.
Not in this sense, sorry. Obviously that has its place, but if it's about taking actions with regards to product improvement or delivery to our customers, we need some evidence. So what are the statistics? You know, Kelly, every month, beginning of each new month, we share our statistics. So customer service, marketing, our email marketing. So then we can actually make decisions then. We don't go, Christine on customer service doesn't go, oh, I'm really bored today. Things must be quiet. Or she goes, oh, I'm really busy. We're getting lots of inquiries. What's lots? Like, what can you show me? So this is the beauty of that data collection, and then being able to analyze it. But the best thing then is that's what your decisions are based off.
Yeah. And I'd like to, again, just state that there's 2 different ways here. There's obviously the business approach for that you need to be monitoring and maintaining that for the business and keeping those data. But even for me, I am still old school pen and paper person. And if I'm like, I will still keep notes. Okay, yep, we've got this keeps coming up, this keeps coming up, this keeps coming up, just on a piece of paper on my desk. Yep. Might not be relevant to the business as a whole, but I'm keeping tabs of things that are affecting me personally in my role.
It's like your diary. Like you might have a daily diary, and that's still evidence. I have still seen in the last few years businesses that have been running for decades, and I'm thinking of one in particular, and this gentleman had worked for them for 50 years. I kid you not.
feel like
50 years, and they're no longer in business. But he maintained records of different items and communications with suppliers just in an exercise book. It was like his daily diary. It's something he'd always done. The business did have software, and so on, but he liked that just so he could, that's how he worked the whole time. But there was still some really juicy information in there. Was it efficient? Possibly not, but that's how he worked.
Yeah, efficient for him, but not for the business as a whole. And I suppose that's the difference there is if you've got your own work style that impacts you and you alone, then that will work. But if you do need to share it with a team, make sure that it is efficient for all.
Absolutely. It worked for him. And look, because he'd been there for so long, they just, he continued to maintain it for himself. So, and you can tell by how Kelly and I are getting more excited. This is where the excitement does come in, because all of that work that you've done to maintain documented information, retain your evidence, now we can do the juicy stuff. We can move forward. We can make these amazing decisions to improve the business, which moves to the fourth key element, which is implementation. Because now we have got the data to make the decisions based on fact, and now we can do something about it. We're not going blindly. Okay, to some degree, there's always that test and learn. And as Kelly pointed out before, plan, do, check, act, and it goes around in that continual improvement cycle. But now that we've made these decisions, we've analysed and we can make decisions, then we implement them. Okay, and then, sorry, Kelly.
That is the fun bit.
Okay. And that's it. Because, implementing and then testing and learning goes to that review and feedback, which is the fifth key element. So you can see as we've narrowed down or worked our way through the 5, where we're flowing through that continual improvement loop. But the big work is done at the beginning. The big work is documenting the procedure, how you do it. The big work is ensuring or figuring out what records you're retaining, what evidence you're retaining. Then the juicy stuff comes in, because you can have a look at it, at the data, and go, oh, that's what's happening. Okay, this, we're recording a lot of customer feedback, and it's all to do with module 4. What's going on in module 4? And then we can have a look. I'm just making that up. Our module 4 is awesome, Kelly.
I know, but I'm just thinking there's just too much context in module 4.
So you can see, and then you can implement, do something about it. And then that fifth key element is that's not where it ends. Okay, you continue, you review, and we talked about this before, actually, about documenting your procedures. You talked about other people reviewing it. That's part of review, and it's that feedback cycle. Yeah, it's just continual.
Yeah, and to kind of skip back to implementation, while it is, and guilty, 100% guilty of this, it is exciting for some people and interesting, and you really want to just do that yourself, but you need to get buy-in from your team. You need others to be able to be part of that process as well, because, again, you don't know what's going to happen. And that review and feedback loop, look, you want to be able to hand this over to somebody else. We say work to make yourself redundant. It's not to lose your job. It's to grow, expand the business, all those sorts of things. We need to
and
share.
Yourself.
Yeah, grow yourself. Yeah, and share that knowledge with other people. I've talked about before, I don't ask my team to do anything that I don't know how to do myself, but it's not for me to be over the top, do their job for them, and so that if they need help, I can back them up. And it's always important to have some buy-in from your team. So not just at the review and improvement, but at the implementation stage, it is good to have other people as well.
Yeah, because then you have that perspective, a different perspective also.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
So just to recap those 5, and then you can add anything else that you may need to. So the 5, I suppose, key takeaways, key elements to this are system documentation, document or look at what you're already doing and documenting it. You could already be documenting it. Use some nice tools that make life quick and easy, like Vimeo Record. I mentioned Loom because it does a bit of both. Always go back and use your procedures and update them because things change. Get someone else to check that they actually make sense. Then data collection. So it's not just about documenting how you do things, it's about retaining evidence. How are you going to retain that evidence? So that might be simply within a platform, like we've got a project management platform or a learning management system. You might have a CRM as well. So that might automatically collect that information. But if it's manual, it might be a job pack or a checklist or some sort of record that's actually checked off and monitored as you go. And because you're doing both of that 1 and 2, then you can analyze this factual element. You're actually going to have something to review and see how much, you might feel, as I said, that you're busier or something's always going wrong with a certain element, and I used module 4 in our context. You might feel it's always this question or this area, but is it? Show me. Where's the data?
You might then.
Yeah, exactly. Actually, that's a good point, Kelly. You might be surprised. It might be something that you weren't expecting. Yeah.
Positive or negative.
Yeah, absolutely. We did something like that. It's similar when we did our resource review at the end of last year and this year. Kelly and I did a resource review and documented every single task that her and I did because we didn't really know. We knew we needed more resources, people, but we didn't know where. We could have guessed maybe, but we didn't want to guess. So we documented, I think it was for about 4 weeks, maybe 6 weeks.
Each.
Independently. Yeah. And then Kelly made it make more sense because she's clever at Excel, and we added categories. And what we discovered wasn't what our guess would have been.
No.
It was completely different.
Yeah. We thought we needed an additional trainer when we needed an administrator and another customer service person. We have our administrator. We're working on our customer service person. Yeah. Not what we thought. No. So it was an amazing process to actually do. Did it take extra time initially, Kelly? So much. And remembering to do it. Yeah. Yes, that's right. But was the output worth it? Oh, look, I love Melissa. I'll say that in a public forum. She's the output. And Hazel and Angus and whoever else. But it did, understanding exactly what we needed made that decision more relevant. We could have hired another trainer and assessor, and then we still would have been in the same place and been. Yep, exactly. So we had the data then. We weren't guessing anymore. And then it was an easy transition to go, well, these are all the tasks that need to go to this business support admin role. So that muddiness became very clear. It was no longer our feelings, because, you and I were just guessing. Where was our time going? Yeah. And it was going on the things that we thought needed to be done, not necessarily the things that actually needed to be done or that weren't getting done because we didn't have time to do them. Exactly. So it's a really good, I suppose, story that aligns with this because we then had the data to make these decisions. Okay. And then we implemented it. Okay, we made an action plan on what to do because it was based on evidence. And then you do, well, how's it going?
Are these the right roles? Something we discovered was that all of those tasks that Kelly and I wrote weren't actually 2 people working 40 hours a week. They were 2 people working 60 hours a week. So in effect, we don't have more time. So we might need to do that process again and then narrow it down to, okay, what do we need now? Where's our time going? So you can see that this philosophy, these 5-step philosophy, it can apply to a lot of areas in your business.
Absolutely.
And that's all I have to say on the matter.
Which is great, because I am very conscious of time today because we have a lot to say. I do have a question, but I'm actually going to carry that over for next week because we are going to be talking about that topic anyway. They've said it's not urgent. We will reply to them separately, I promise. But I am going to call a wrap on today's episode of Leading the Standards. We do hope that you found our discussion on the strategic value of documented information insightful and helpful. Next week, we do have something exciting lined up. It is very relevant and current to us here at the moment. So in episode 7, we are going to be diving into building an effective resume. And I have seen a lot of resumes lately. And let me tell you, some of them have been real page turners and or eye-openers, and for both positive and negative reasons. So I'm sure it is bound to be an interesting discussion. So whether you are crafting your first resume in this space or you are polishing up an old one, please do tune in next week. As always, we love hearing from our ATOL community, so don't hesitate to reach out to us with any more questions or feedback. I will touch on that question we have, as I said, next week. But thank you for joining us today. If you feel this episode was interesting, inspiring, if you enjoyed it, please subscribe and leave us a review. Thank you to those who already have. We really do appreciate it. Helps us reach more people and benefit those who are looking to get into this industry. So until next time, please keep leading the standard, and we'll see you in the next episode. So bye for now. Thanks for joining us once again as we lead the standard. Make sure to subscribe to our podcast for more episodes just like this. And don't forget to leave a review if you found today's episode informative and inspiring. If you're already an ATOL student, remember participating in live Q&A sessions just like this is one of the exclusive perks of your enrolment. And if you're not already a student, join us at our website, www.auditortrainingonline.com, to learn more about our courses and how you can start making a difference in your career in ISO management system standards. So join us again next week as we not just meet the standards, but we lead them.